just do what we do, build our own shit over here. You know, the Soweto, the Southwest Township in South Africa, was always a fuck disaster of rioting and murder and rape, all by black people. And you know,
the next day, the veterans patrolled the streets with firearms again, presumably to prevent any further violence. Because government corruption ran so deep in McMinn County, some public offices were abolished or declared vacant, and the new government officials began investigations into their predecessors' actions.
During some of the most tumultuous times of the white minority running the country, apartheid.
Something's wrong,
as they call it.
There you go.
Apartheid, as you would think it was pronounced with that S-E-T-H in there. But he's been through it. He saw it. He saw the destruction that happened after apartheid was dissolved, and blacks were put in power, in positions of power, as a majority population in South Africa.
Squared away, sir.
And you know, they wanted their piece of the pie, which meant taking over everything the white minority ran. Unfortunately, they ran things like every single public works in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
Water, farming, electricity, construction, maintenance of everything. And we've just seen the crumbling of South Africa over the course of decades now that apartheid has gone bye-bye over there. So Elon Musk's father was asked a question about whites becoming the minority in the United States, and how some people talk about this like it's going to be some great thing, like it's a great turning point when whites are finally the minority in the United States. And they can never really give a good answer as to why that would be. Why is that a good thing to have whites the minority? It's usually some fuzzy, feel-good, emotional response like, well, everyone deserves a chance to blah, blah. We're all equal and different, diverse ideas make for better. Nah, it doesn't.
Need a repair?
It really doesn't.
Unit ready.
Especially when these diverse ideas are coming from countries that haven't had an idea in centuries. So I was watching this clip and thinking, wow, Elon Musk's dad. That's pretty good. Let's listen and watch.
The big concern at the moment, and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now, is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be very, very bad.
Looks like Pacino!
You want to see the US go down? Why?
Hi, this is Anthony Cumia.
And hello, I am Gavin McInnes.
Together, we're Compound Censored.
And we'd like you to subscribe to our network that has more fantastic content you could shake a stick at. Use this promo code for a one-time super offer.
Reporting for duty. It's in
Do
the
it.
bank.
It's uncensored and oh so entertaining.
Unit ready.
Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? You want to go back to the jungle, or?
If the US becomes a minority white country,
Good to go.
so Latinas, there's blacks, there's people from all different races make up the majority, and then, you know, it could be 48% white people. Do you really think the US is doomed if it goes under?
Yes, it goes under there.
Seriously?
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects the European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black
No.
Yes, sir.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work, we fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression, that's feeding them. Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only start at 800 and become 50 million if you get fed. We fed them. For crying out loud. You know, enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population here was so oppressed under apartheid,
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
you never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
Commander. Ready to roll. Bound forward.
Oh,
IFV
boy.
ready.
Oh, the poor black people in South Africa. Oppressed. How? If you're so wonderful
Tools of the
and
trade.
able to invent
Need a conversion?
and
Transformer
innovate
panels in
things
order.
and
Fast and
build,
Unit ready.
why would a black
is
majority
Yes, sir.
of people be held under the
Transformer
thumb
panels
of
in
a
order.
minority
Everything's made
white
conversion.
government?
Running smooth.
How did that happen? How does that happen?
Everything's made to fit. Yep.
I can't see that happening in a European nation
Transformer panels in order.
without the people going, yeah, we'll just do what we do, build our own shit over here. You know, the Soweto, the Southwest Township
On the go.
in South Africa was always a fuck disaster of rioting and murder and rape, all by black people. And you know, the white apartheid government would send in their troops and try to
Unit
get
reporting.
some kind of order in
Yes,
there,
sir.
but it was
High speed,
impossible.
low drag.
It was
Unit
impossible.
reporting. Outstanding.
And you know, they needed all kinds of assistance, being fed, getting water, clothes, shelter, and you know, you see what it is now. Just trying to barely hold it together by a
Securing
thread.
position.
Every
Securing position.
part of the infrastructure that white South Africans built is deteriorating by the day. And there's just no one there capable of maintaining it and repairing what's broken. And even worse, they're just stealing the infrastructure to scrap it. Taking millions of dollars of infrastructure and taking it somewhere to scrap it for pennies, fractions of pennies on the dollar. And, you know, there would be some people that would say, well, they're hungry, they need food.
Eliminate.
The infrastructure's there to
Settling
make
in.
the food. You don't disassemble it so you can eat for an afternoon. You maintain it, build it, work it, and pump out food and water and everything else, electricity, and then you're eating in perpetuity. So that was interesting. I didn't know Mr. Musk Sr. was so based.
Vehicle ready.
He's based.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Elon gets it, I guess.
On the move.
Unit ready.
That's pretty cool.
Got it.
And on the other side, here's a woman.
On the prowl. Unit reporting.
Here's a woman
Bound forward.
that lives here in the United States, but wants to go to South Africa, where she hears everything is so much better. So, you know, what Elon's dad there is saying is retarded, just ridiculous. And the reality is that South Africa is so much better than the United States, and this woman wants to go there. And I say, you know, bon voyage. I'll flip the bill
Need a conversion?
for the airfare. Let's watch.
Who has
Natural
the better
sanctuary.
culture?
Replanting.
Who has the better
Everything's
dancing?
made to fit.
Who
Watch
has the
my
better
dust.
Unit ready.
Who has the better food? Where would you rather be right
Construction
now?
complete.
Where do you have the most families? Where have you made the most
Building.
memories? Where do you
Unit
currently
Perfect
live?
hideout. Aren't the
Where would
trees
you rather
lovely?
spend the rest
Now
of
you
your
see
life?
me, soon you
Who
won't.
has the better culture?
So
Perfect
go.
hideout. Aren't the trees lovely?
What do you think? You gotta
Laying
swim?
low.
Unit
So
ready.
go to South Africa.
Construction
Pick your fat black ass
Laying
up,
low.
get yourself on a plane,
Unit ready.
and fly to South Africa and live this amazing, wonderful life that is
Unit
being
ready.
denied to you here in the United States of America.
Aren't the trees lovely?
Wonderful food. Where's the food coming from? white farmers that are being murdered, by the way.
Want some shade?
Murdered on their own farms. How about
You
that?
see me? Soon you won't.
You're gonna go?
Tank in order, sir.
Go, take some friends and family with you. We'll
Nobody here but us
we'll
trees.
pay.
On the prowl.
But you have to never,
Replanting.
ever come back. Don't
Natural sanctuary. Laying low. On the prowl.
just astounding.
Perfect hideout.
You want some more fucking idiots? Some more idiots? We've talked about this for
Mean,
a
green,
little while now. It's a Starbucks. Starbucks is a coffee place, in case you didn't know. I need to let you know because the workers there, the employees at Starbucks, seem to think it's NASA or this amazing SpaceX or Tesla or some amazing place that is making amazing things.
Focusing light energy.
They make coffee.
Now you see me.
That's it. That's what they do. You come in, you give them your dumb name, you fucking wait, and some dummy back there takes your money, and then another dummy makes your coffee and puts it up there, and you as a dummy goes and picks it up. That's Starbucks. Nothing amazing going on in there. And by that I mean nothing that anyone of average or below average IQ off the street can go in, get a 10-minute lesson on anything to do in there. The register, making the barista, the coffee maker, and not do just as good a job in, maybe after a few missteps, maybe a whole day. You get 10 minutes training, a day of doing it, and then the next day you come in, you are just as good as anyone else that has worked there for fucking 10 years. And the employees seem to think that they are so irreplaceable and so amazing in their making of coffee and taking of money, or just, you do it yourself now. Tap or put the chip in or swipe. So they don't even have to count the fucking change out anymore. A blithering idiot off the street can do any job that any Starbucks employee is doing. So they're getting a little pissy because Starbucks has made the mistake over the course of the years of hiring liberal douchebags. And yet, look, it's a beginner job.
You are victorious.
Just like McDonald's. It's no better than your fucking flipping burgers at one of the atriums in the middle of the school outside or something. And we're like, we're not getting up till we can smoke. It's so juvenile. It's so immature. It's so naive. You're not thinking about anything like insurance. The school, imagine how much more insurance the school would have to pay if they actually allowed their students to smoke. Now, I know there were a few schools I heard of, I never saw, never attended, but a few that actually had allowed students to smoke. And I would assume these are 18-year-old seniors, because it was illegal to smoke younger than 18. But I'm still from the school of thought that you can't smoke in school. And there's reasons for that. Health reasons. You get lung cancer, and now you're suing the school for allowing you to smoke. There's all kinds of legitimate reasons. And you want to smoke? Go off somewhere off the school grounds for a few minutes and smoke a cigarette. But we're like, no, man, we want to smoke, man. And they told us, if you don't get your asses back to class, you're failing the class. And well, we want to smoke, man. We got up and went back to class because we didn't understand the reality of a school allowing children to smoke. All right?
Yes, Commander.
We do now. And the Starbucks situation is very similar. The Starbucks situation. Very similar.
Let's keep it safe.
They're in there. They get one of these idiots gets this harebrained scheme that they want to make more money and have a union contract, and they think they're fucking working at a construction site.
Yes, Commander.
They're doing important, heavy work. You make coffee
Reporting.
and you watch people swipe their fucking credit card and tell them thank you. That's your job. So
Shuttle ready for passengers.
the truth of the matter
Checking
is
with map.
you're not getting anything more. Starbucks will just fire you. You won't have this, unionized companies.
I have the information.
The fear of a strike is that if they fire the striking workers, then out of unity, every other worker at every other one of your facilities also goes on strike. So you got a trucking company, they ship a certain route, they're on strike, they want more money, they want benefits, whatever it is, and the company goes, well, we'll fire all of you. So then the Teamsters Union, running the truckers, puts out a thing going, well, they're fucking our brothers down here at this trucking company, so the United States of America will not have truck deliveries. Now the company's going to go, oh, fuck.
Engineering.
You think Starbucks baristas are going to unite and strike at every Starbucks location? Because a couple of dummies decided they're going to play fucking Brockovich, whatever her name was,
What is the mission?
and be big union organizers. Dummies. Let's watch, and boy, their appearance does not disappoint. They look exactly like you'd imagine.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want?
We need to be paid more. It's ridiculous, like what we have to go through as workers. We're telling Starbucks that they need to invest in us and they need to come back to the bargaining table so we can get a contract and we can be back at work.
Conscript reporting. Waiting orders. Let's clear the air.
Oh boy. And Starbucks brought it all on themselves. They've been this liberal douchebag company for a long time. Remember when the cops came in to kick out a couple of homeless people that were utilizing the Starbucks bathroom and saying they were waiting for somebody or whatever it was, and they had them removed, and Starbucks got all pissed off and said, no, we're opening our bathrooms now. Anyone who wants to come in and sit and wait for a friend, they don't even have to buy anything. They could sit at our tables, they can use the bathroom, and it was a complete clusterfuck of the usual suspects. Drug addicts, violent homeless people, people that haven't showered in months, walking past you while you're trying to enjoy your croissant and fucking mochaccino. And
they won't detect our approach.
they were like, they quietly put the kibosh on that one after a little bit of time, because you can't run a business that way. And again, it's a beginner's, it's a starter job. You don't demand more pay. You get a better job. That's what happened. We've all worked at shitty little jobs. Imagine I worked there at Chicago Pizza Pub in New York, oddly enough. I don't know how. Washing dishes while I was in high school.
Good under pressure.
Imagine saying to the boss, yeah, I need a living wage from you. I need more than $2.50 an hour because I plan on having a family and buying a house and a car. And you're like, what? Yeah, leave. Get your fucking ass out of here. I got 20 more dishwashers lined up. That'll take $2 an hour. And that's what Starbucks is, and McDonald's and Burger King and all the other fast food chains. They're beginner jobs. And for these idiots to demand a living wage, they have no motivation. There's no motivation to go out and actually improve yourself. The fact that you'd want to be slinging KFC for the rest of your life and trying to strong-arm KFC to pay you enough for a house and a car and a family? You out of your fucking mind? But that's what they do, and that girl seemed a little off, didn't she? Didn't she seem a little off? Like she's going to put on that helmet and get on the short bus to go back home from Starbucks, from her big protest. Good for her. Well, Denver, Colorado. I never knew Denver was such a liberal shithole. I don't know when this happened. I thought Denver was like the Wild West. Go west, young man. Denver, the mile-high city. It's like a Western, you know? You raise cattle or something. I never knew that Denver, Colorado had turned into such a shithole. But it apparently has, and their politicians reflect that. The mayor of Denver, Mike Johnston, he is showing off his city's brandy new. You can almost smell the new construction when you watch this video of the city's affordable housing. That, by the way, as he will tell you, is for everybody. This isn't just for homeless, violent criminals and the lot. Anyone that wants to live in here, a fireman, a police officer, doctors, can live side by side with degenerate, smelly homeless drug addicts. What an amazing idea. So let's look and take a good look, because it's brand new right now. And as I was watching this, all I could do was imagine what this place is going to look like in a year or two. Roll them.
This is what affordability looks like here in Denver. Today we opened 128 units of affordable housing here. Let me show you what this means. This means both workforce housing. So if you are someone that's a teacher, that's a nurse, that's a firefighter, looking for a place to work and a place to live, you can live here. If you're looking for permanent supportive housing, that means you might be someone who's coming out of corrections or coming out of homelessness and needs some supportive services as well. You can see amazingly built public spaces, beautiful outdoor patio and grill. You got my favorite room here, which is game day room, where you can have folks sit and be able to enjoy a game. If there are case managers who are helping people provide access to services, they have offices right here.
Offices, these will be where you could smoke crack.
This is true for all levels of affordability. So we want Denver to be affordable for those folks struggling the most, but we also want it to be affordable for working families all across the city. And so that means if you are someone that's making $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a year, still have a hard time paying the rent, this is a place that would guarantee you don't pay more than 30% of what you make to rent. We are planning to try to bring on 3,000 units like this every year as part of our city goal. This is what makes Denver affordable. Huge step forward today.
Imagine firefighters, cops, professionals moving in there just because it's more affordable. Have you ever seen an affordable housing complex?
Ready for transport. Cutting fast.
After a year or so?
Vessel ready.
That wonderful, did you see it? The wonderful architecture. Open loft-like ceilings with exposed pipes and everything. Looked very cool. The game day, big television. Looked like bookshelves. Books in there if you want to go in and maybe read. And then all the little offices with various people from various agencies to help you with your SNAP benefits. And that is going to be a dark, dank, depressing shithole in no time. All subsidized by you, the people of Denver, Colorado. And, you know, for anyone thinking that I'm being overly pessimistic, it's just based on history. It's based on what we see, what we noticed over the course of decades. That affordable housing is never good. The people that cannot afford houses because they fell through the cracks or they're on bad times, but they're working hard and trying. That isn't who goes to affordable housing. Freeloaders, people that don't want to work, people involved in criminal activities, they go to affordable housing. And usually it's supplemented by some form of government program. And they are not the most respectful people to their building. They don't appreciate that it's clean and well kempt, and that there are things like a large screen television to watch sporting events and meeting rooms where you could get together and play cards or something with some of the other residents. That will look like a prison cell block in no time. Pessimistic?
Ship reporting.
Cynical?
Fire at will.
Yes. Yes, I am. Show me something to change my attitude about this. Show me anything where I have to go,
yes, Commander.
All right, that model seems to work.
Yes,
so,
Commander.
if you enjoyed
Engines
that
engaged.
clip,
Then subscribe to Compound Censored using this promo code.
Use stealth. Ship reporting. Yes, Commander. Captain confirming.
Primary building selected. Building.
Ship reporting. Target sighted.
Voting in the United States has always had its challenges. In various places and times in our history, elections have been challenged, corruption suspected, and in a few cases, fraud and illegality have been proven. The most recent challenge to electoral integrity was in the 2020 presidential election, which was mired in controversy, and some provable examples of voter fraud, interference, and malfeasance were established. See our video on that event. On January 6, 2021, the Capitol Hill event is often erroneously cited as a coup to overthrow the government by Democrats, who were largely responsible for not accepting proper security when offered. But it was not an armed revolt against established elected authority. But there was one event where it did turn deadly, and Americans took up arms against other Americans to ensure their election was fair and just. What was the Battle of Athens? Why did it occur? Who was involved? What was the outcome?
Captain confirming.
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready.
In 1936, in Min County, Tennessee, the political landscape took a drastic turn. It began with the election of Paul Cantrell, the Democratic candidate for sheriff. The Cantrell family was quite wealthy and had political influence locally and in Washington. His election was controversial, and many of the people in Athens believed that ballot boxes were swapped, but there was no evidence. Just the locals talking with each other comparing who they voted for. During that time, the laws of Tennessee allowed for corruption, which was rampant. Cantrell deputized thugs who were his friends, and they made money on every arrest. They made more money if there was conviction and incarceration, essentially running a bogus law enforcement slave market. Deputies would board buses and stop cars and arrest people for various crimes, such as being drunk even when they were not, vagrancy, anything they could think of. Just the sheriff's signature on a voucher was all that was needed to get payment from the county courthouse. Cantrell's men also ran gambling and prostitution rackets frequented by their wealthy friends, who would lure unsuspecting strangers into these locations only for these strangers to be arrested for illegal activities. Cantrell was re-elected through manipulation and intimidation, serving 10 years as sheriff and becoming wealthier. In all the elections, ballot boxes were collected and the ballots counted in secret at the McMinn County Jail in Athens. Opposition poll watchers were labeled as troublemakers and ejected from precinct houses. The 1940 election saw George Woods from Etowah, a friend of Cantrell's, elected to the state legislature. Once there, Woods promptly introduced an act to redistrict McMinn County, reducing the number of voting precincts from 23 to 12, and reducing the number of justices of the peace from 14 to 7, with 4 working for Cantrell. After Governor Prentice Cooper signed Woods' bill into law on February 15, 1941, effective Republican opposition died in McMinn County. It was a one-party county, and Cantrell was now in the state Senate. However, Republicans still held the McMinn County court, and they directed the county to purchase voting machines. Cantrell's Democrats countered by having Woods get a bill passed in Nashville, abolishing the court and selling the machines to save the county money. Department of Justice records show investigations of electoral fraud in McMinn County in 1940, 1942, and 1944, all without resolution. The corruption was no secret. Mansfield and local deputies had been using the county as a money-making machine the whole time. They arrested people for invented crimes to charge them with fees they then pocketed. Returning veterans were especially targeted since the deputies knew they had money. Bill White recalled coming home from overseas with mustering out pay in his pocket.
Building Soviet economy.
He stated,
Let's keep the ore moving.
There were several beer joints and honky-tonks around Athens. We were pretty wild. We started having trouble with the law enforcement at that time because they started making a habit of picking up GIs and fining them heavily for most anything. They were kind of making a racket out of it. After long, hard years of service, most of us were hardcore veterans of World War II. We were used to drinking our liquor and our beer without being molested. When these things happened, the GIs got madder. The more GIs they arrested, the more they beat up, the madder we got. End of quote. Under-the-table brothels and casinos paid the deputies to let them keep operating. Athens became known for vice and violence, and the returning veterans saw tyranny reigning without accountability. McMinn County veteran Bill White again stated, "You come back to a town that's run by a bunch of outlaws." He was referring to then State Senator Paul Cantrell and his cronies, and White was trying to rally his fellow vets and their supporters to take a stand against election fraud. Continuing with White, he said, the veterans had formed an opposition group running 5 candidates for local offices, but it looked like they were about to lose, whether or not it was the will of the people. End quote. The veterans fielded candidates for 5 offices, but interest centered on the race for sheriff between Henry Knox and the incumbent. Since the 1936 election, Cantrell had gone on to the state legislature and installed Pat Mansfield as the sheriff of McMinn County. Mansfield had done very nicely for himself during his term in office. His 4 years as sheriff had netted him an estimated $104,000. But now, in 1946, Cantrell was running for sheriff and Mansfield for state senator. They were just going to change jobs. By the time White made the speech late in the day of August 1st, 1946, Cantrell's supporters were widely stealing the election, spending the day intimidating voters, and poll workers, even beating and shooting some of them, taking the ballot boxes off to the Athens jail when it was all over. Here is what happened. On the morning of August 1st, the Veterans Group issued a statement over the radio urging people to get out and vote without fear and to survey the counting of votes. They used their slogan throughout their campaign, "Your vote will be counted as cast." Pat Mansfield, who was running for Paul Cantrell's state Senate seat, expected conflict on Election Day and swore in 300 special deputies, many from out of town, some even out of state. This was done partially in response to veterans from nearby Blount County offering to come help McMinn vets monitor the polls. The veterans publicly offered a $1,000 reward for anyone bringing evidence of election fraud. Voters arrived on August 1st in the largest turnout in local history, who were confronted by 300 of Sheriff Mansfield's special deputies. Trouble began early. At 9:30 a.m., when Walter Ellis, a legally appointed GI representative at the 1st Precinct and the courthouse, was arrested and jailed for protesting irregularities. The veterans and their supporters posted poll watchers, and the sheriff's deputies threatened them throughout the day and only allowed a few people into the polling places at a time and watched them as they voted. Because they turned away some legitimate voters, someone sent an urgent message to the Department of Justice. There was no response from federal Democrats, just as there had been no answer to more than 1,000 messages about voting fraud sent from McMinn County to the department in the previous 10 years. They knew Cantrell had posted armed guards at each precinct. Inside L.L. Schaefer's jewelry store, June Butler, who saw combat in Africa, Sicily, Italy, and Normandy, showed the 200 veterans who arrived copies of the 2 telegrams dated July 22nd that he sent to Governor Jim McCord in Nashville, Tennessee, the other to Attorney General Tom Clark in Washington, D.C. They requested assistance to ensure a fair election. Neither had been answered. They all knew that after 4 p.m. poll closing, the ballot boxes would be moved to the jail for counting. Tom Gillespie, a black farmer, tried to vote, and Wendy Wise, a Cantrell sheriff's deputy, told Gillespie, "N-word, you can't vote here." When Gillespie protested, Wise struck him with brass knuckles. Gillespie dropped his ballot and ran for the door. That was when Wise pulled his revolver and shot him in the back as he reached the sidewalk. During the confusion following the shooting, the 2 GI poll watchers, Ed Vestal and Charlie Scott, had been seized and held hostage inside the waterworks by Wise and another Cantrell deputy, Carl Neal. When the veterans reached the waterworks, the crowd began taunting the armed guards.
Ship reporting.
Later on, the New York Times would report that at the time, about 1,000 people stormed the jail and surrounding area, where around 200 deputies were barricaded. This was the beginning of the Battle of Athens. But let's get what led up to that. As Wise and Neal stood at a window watching the angry throng outside, Vestal and Scott plunged through the plate glass windows and ran bleeding for the protection of the crowd. Wise stepped through the broken glass, waving his weapon, threatening the crowd. A polling place for the 12th precinct had been set up on the back of the Dixie Cafe, across Hornsby's Alley from the jail, and commanded by Minus Wilburn for Cantrell. Veterans Bob Harrell and Wesley Dooley were assigned as the GI poll watchers. They saw Wilburn letting minors vote and handing out cash to adult voters, essentially buying votes. At 3:45 p.m., Wilburn attempted to allow a young woman to vote despite the fact that she had no poll tax receipt and that her name did not appear on the registration list. Harrell's patience gave out. As Wilburn reached to deposit the ballot, Harrell grabbed his wrist. Wilburn slapped him across the head with a blackjack and kicked him in the face as he fell to the floor. Then he closed the precinct, ordered Hornsby Alley blocked at both ends, and, with a procession of guards, crossed the lawn to the jail, the ballot box, and the GIs as captives. Only minutes later, at another location, poll watcher and veteran Bob Harrell protested when an ineligible voter was allowed to vote. A deputy on the scene beat him severely, and when another vet tried to intervene, he was threatened at gunpoint.
Engines engaged.
Seeing what was going on, the veterans broke into the National Guard armory, stole weapons, ammunition, and walked to the jail, where they began a standoff with sheriff's deputies. Just how many people were involved is unclear, but the New York Times said 1,000. At the end of that voting day, 2 more veteran poll watchers were also threatened with weapons when they tried to exit a polling place. They were watching votes being counted, but not allowed to really see anything, prompting them to leave. Fearing for his life, one of them smashed through a glass door and sought protection. Chief Deputy Bo Dunn and his men secured the area from the building to his car, and the ballot box was loaded. Wise told Dunn about the GI's threat. The chief deputy ordered 2 of his men to GI headquarters to arrest those whom Wise could identify. The rest of the deputies piled into the cruiser, which sped back toward the jail. When the two deputies reached the GI headquarters, they were disarmed and taken prisoner. So were two others later sent as reinforcements. A crowd began to gather outside. 3 more deputies came with pistols drawn, only to be pummeled and dragged inside. The crowd began to demand the lives of the captives. Some of the veterans agreed to killing them. This talk alarmed Otto Kennedy, and he left, vowing to have no part in murder. The crowd began to disperse, and most of the GIs left. Soon, a small group of veterans was alone with 7 hostages. The veterans took the hostages into the woods, 10 miles out of town, beat them, and handcuffed them to trees. Later, the ballot boxes from all precincts were taken to the jail for further counting, at which point Bill White made his speech to discouraged veterans. By 6 p.m., it seemed to be over. GI headquarters was deserted, and unhappy crowds moved quietly along the streets. Another election had been stolen, and nothing could be done about it. At 8:30 p.m., a local radio station reported that the veterans and their supporters had surrounded the jail, and White issued a challenge to the deputies inside the building, yelling that unless someone brought the ballot boxes out, we are going to set siege against the jail and blow it down. When the deputies didn't agree, the veterans opened fire, which the deputies immediately returned. Some veterans were being held hostage inside, and the battle intensified when demands for their release were also denied. By 9 p.m., Paul Cantrell, Pat Mansfield, State Representative George Woods, who was also a member of the Election Commission, and about 50 deputies were locked inside the jail and going through the ballot boxes. The following events are still unclear. White says he was the one to call it out, stating, "Would you damn bastards bring those damn ballot boxes out here, or we are going to set siege against the jail and blow it down," he said again. Moments later, the night exploded in automatic weapons fire punctuated by shotgun blasts. "I fired the first shot," White claimed. "Then everybody started shooting from our side." A deputy ran for the jail. White says, "I shot him. He reeled and fell inside of the jail. I shot a second man. His leg flew out from under him, and he crawled under a car." Cantrell and his accomplices refused to surrender. As the uncertain battle dragged past midnight, the GIs knew that they had violated local, state, and federal laws that night, and if Cantrell was not routed before his rescuers arrived, they might spend the rest of their lives in prison. Rumors were spreading that the National Guard is on the way, or the state troopers are here, or Birch Biggs and his gang are coming. The corrupt Democrat Biggs ran Polk County even more ruthlessly than Cantrell ran McMinn County. The battle lasted about 6 hours, and at 2:30 a.m. an ambulance evacuated 2 men from the jail. The veterans assumed they were wounded deputies, but it was in fact Cantrell and Mansfield escaping the violence. Shortly afterward, ready for the fight to end, the veterans dynamited the front of the jail 4 times.
What is the mission?
After the dynamite strikes and Molotov cocktails, the jail's defenders surrendered and handed the ballot boxes over to the veterans. The townspeople set upon the captured deputies and, but for the GIs, probably would have killed them all. Minus Wilburn, a particularly unpopular deputy, had his throat slashed. Biscuit Ferris, Cantrell's prison superintendent, had his jaw shattered by a bullet, and Wendy Wise was kicked and beaten senseless. The veterans cleared the jail of the rioters and locked up their prisoners for the night. Just before dawn the next morning on August 2nd, the veterans slipped away to avoid being arrested should state or federal authorities arrive, and the New York Times reported at least 20 people were wounded in the battle. But an erroneous report was printed that the sheriff had been killed in a one-page headline. Tennessee sheriff is slain in primary day violence. The only death had been Gillespie, so far killed by Wise. The New York Times concluded, "Corruption, when and where it exists, demands reform, and even in the most corrupt and boss-ridden communities, there are peaceful means by which reform can be achieved, but there is no substitute in a democracy for orderly process." Many condemned the actions by the veterans. However, despite the newspapers condemning the action, the former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt openly approved of the veterans' action, saying it was a warning against people who sought to restrict voting rights. But suddenly a power vacuum existed, so armed GIs patrolled streets in case Mansfield brought men to reclaim Athens. Hundreds of men were issued permits to carry weapons, and machine guns on rooftops guarded the approaches to town. Several times, groups of veterans rushed to barricade roads, and occasionally they terrorized innocent travelers in their attempt to thwart an invasion that never came. A search after the siege uncovered numerous blank ballots in the jail, ready to be used to hand victory to Paul Cantrell and his company. The Secretary of the Election Commission confirmed that the veterans had indeed won the election, but votes from half the precincts were thrown out because of tampering. The next day, the veterans patrolled the streets with firearms again, presumably to prevent any further violence. Because government corruption ran so deep in McMinn County, some public offices were abolished or declared vacant, and the new government officials began investigations into their predecessors' actions. On August 4th, Pat Mansfield telegraphed his resignation as sheriff of McMinn County to Governor McCord and requested that Knox Henry fill his unexpired term, which would end on September 1st. Knox Henry was appointed sheriff immediately, and a count of the ballots proved he'd actually won the election anyway. And the next day, State Representative George Woods returned to the county under GI protection to convene the Election Commission and certify the election. The results of the audit proved that Knox Henry was elected sheriff over Mansfield by a vote of 2,175 to 1,270. On August 11, 1946, the 5 GIs elected to office in McMinn announced that they would return to the county all fees in excess of $5,000 and a $5,000 salary cap for officials. The corrupt local and state Democrats were being replaced. The gambling houses run by Cantrell were raided and shut down, and the deputies of the party administration were replaced. The results of these actions saw Knox Henry serve 2 terms as sheriff of McMinn County, later succeeded by Otto Kennedy. Paul Cantrell, after seeking temporary asylum in Chattanooga, returned to Etowah and continued to operate the bank there with his brothers. Bill White was made a sheriff's deputy, Athens Mayor Paul Walker and the 4 town aldermen all resigned. Pat Mansfield returned to Athens on August 8, 1946, previously, and resigned his membership on the Election Commission. For a full year afterward, the national press seized upon the most insignificant news from Athens as evidence of the veterans' lawlessness. There was indeed remarkably little criminal prosecution following the events. The only man charged was Deputy Wendy Wise, the deputy who shot Tom Gillespie, and he received a sentence of 1 to 3 years in prison. The Battle of Athens, Tennessee, is also called the Battle of McMinn County and is now part of American political history. The event was loosely depicted in the film Battle of Athens, showing a small group of World War II veterans liberate their Tennessee town from the local sheriff and his corrupt political machine, following the stolen election of 1946, and your humble narrator suggests that film be viewed. It's quite good. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page.
Yes, Commander. Target sighted.
Please check out our merchandise store.
Close
and thanks for watching.
Fire. Good under pressure. Running silent. Vessel ready. Target sighted.
Ready.
Target sighted. Target sighted.
Ready.
Fire at will. Target sighted. Yes, Commander. Captain confirming. Fire
It was May 15th, 1972, and Governor George Wallace of Alabama was shaking hands with supporters at a campaign stop in Laurel, Maryland, when gunfire erupted. 4 bullets struck him, leaving the once powerful figure paralyzed from the waist down. In that moment, the man who had dominated Alabama politics for over a decade, the fiery populist who once vowed segregation forever, saw his ambition for the presidency vanish in a flash of gun smoke and chaos. But Wallace's story just wasn't about political theater or racial defiance. Behind the public bluster was a web of money, influence, and control that stretched across Alabama's government. His administration operated like a personal stronghold, where contracts went to friends, opponents were punished, and state funds often blurred the line between politics and profit. Wallace learned early that power in the South wasn't simply won through elections, it was bought, traded, and enforced. What began as a crusade for the common man evolved into one of the most entrenched political machines in American history. Wallace mastered the art of populist manipulation, using fear and resentment as currency, while quietly consolidating wealth and loyalty through corruption and intimidation. By the time the bullets stopped him, George Wallace had built an empire of power that no scandal, rival, or investigation could fully dismantle, at least not yet. Who was George Wallace? What shaped his politics and career? Why was he controversial?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran,
armed, you
and
know.
welcome to this episode of
Let's keep it safe.
Units scanned. Ship reporting.
Unit ready.
Close and fire.
George Wallace was born August 25, 1919 in Clio, Alabama. A farmer's son, he had two younger brothers, Gerald and Jack, and a younger sister named Mary Ann. When his father died in 1937, his mother had to sell their farmland to pay existing mortgages. Wallace worked his way through the University of Alabama Law School and fought as an amateur boxer to make money, graduating in 1942. Early in 1943, Wallace was accepted for pilot training by the United States Army Air Force. Soon afterwards, Wallace contracted life-threatening spinal meningitis, but prompt medical attention with sulfa drugs saved his life. Left with partial hearing loss and permanent nerve damage, he was instead trained as a flight engineer. During 1945, as a member of a B-29 crew with the 468th Bombardment Group, stationed in the Mariana Islands as part of the 20th Air Force under General Curtis LeMay, Wallace took part in air raids on Japan and reached the rank of staff sergeant. In mid-1945, Wallace received an early discharge on medical grounds due to severe anxiety and a 10% disability pension for psychoneurosis. After the war, he served as Assistant State's Attorney in 1946, after which he was elected to 2 terms in the state legislature. In 1952, he became the circuit judge of the 3rd Judicial Circuit in Alabama, where he became known as the Fighting Little Judge. He gained a reputation for fairness regardless of the race of the plaintiff. It was common practice at the time for judges in the area to refer to black lawyers by their first names, and their white colleagues were addressed formally as Mr., but black lawyer J.L. Chester later said that, quote, Judge George Wallace was the most liberal judge that I had ever practiced law in front of. He was the first judge in Alabama to call me Mr. in a courtroom. On the other hand, Wallace issued injunctions to prevent the removal of segregation signs in rail terminals, becoming the first Southern judge to do so. As judge, Wallace granted probation to some black people, which may have cost him the 1958 gubernatorial election to segregationist candidate John M. Patterson, who had been endorsed by the Ku Klux Klan. Realizing he was fighting against the establishment and the KKK, he changed his approach and opposed expanding voter registration of black people and blocked civil rights organizations and federal efforts to review Barber County voting lists. His defiance of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights investigation of discrimination in black voting rights law saw him cited for criminal contempt of court in 1959. Wallace's preoccupation with race was based on his belief that black Americans constituted a separate and inferior race. He held his judicial post until 1959. Wallace hired Asa Earl Carter as a speechwriter. Carter was a well-known Klan-affiliated white supremacist, and some of Wallace's most famous segregationist rhetoric was derived from Carter's writing. Wallace finally won the governorship of Alabama in 1962 on a platform emphasizing segregation and economic issues. Wallace took the oath of office on January 14, 1963, standing on the gold star marking the spot where, nearly 102 years earlier, Jefferson Davis was sworn in as the provisional president of the Confederate States of America. In his inaugural speech, Wallace said, "In the name of the greatest people that have ever trod this earth, I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny. And I say segregation now."